Hi and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's quick review for Counterpart Season 1. This video is a part of a series of videos where I give a quick spoiler-free review of a show currently airing. In this video I will cover Season 1 of the Starz original series, Counterpart. Although this video will mostly be spoiler-free, I will have to get into some slight spoilers from the first couple episodes in order to describe the premise of the show. So if you'd like to go into the show completely cold, knowing nothing about the premise, you may want to skip this video. However, I don't give away any specifics about the events that occur in the show, particularly in the later half of the season. I only get into the general premise of the show. In fact, I don't really cover anything that isn't covered in the trailer for the show, so if you've seen the trailer, I pretty much won't be adding anything that you don't already know. So, Counterpart was sold to me as a show about a parallel universe starring Academy Award winner J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for the film Whiplash, but also appeared in films like Juno, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, and shows like Oz. He is by all accounts an amazing actor, however typically he plays the same sort of asshole character who goes around being incredibly cruel to everyone, like his character from Whiplash, Spider-Man, and Oz. But also from time to time he can play a kinder, more gentler character like in Juno and Terminator Genesis. Here we get to see him do both, as he plays two different versions of the same character. One is a gentle old man trapped in a dead-end job, and the other is a fast-talking, gritty spy, and J.K. Simmons is definitely a huge selling point for the show, as seeing him play these two characters is worth the watch just on its own. He does an amazing job, particularly when he has to play one of the characters pretending to be one of the other characters. It's a very tricky and nuanced thing that Simmons pulls off perfectly, and in that way it reminds me of Tatiana Maslany's performance in Orphan Black as being an amazing performance that upholds and elevates the whole show. But that being said, I think the story of Counterpart is stronger and is more to the show than just J.K. Simmons' performance. So Counterpart is a parallel universe story that takes place in modern day Berlin. Although I don't think calling it a parallel universe is completely accurate, as it doesn't involve what you would typically think of as a parallel universe. As in most science fiction, a parallel universe refers to the theory of there being an infinite amount of universe which diverge based on choices and decisions that were made differently. And typically our characters from our universe visit these pre-existing parallel universe, such as the Enterprise crew going into the mirror universe in Star Trek, or Walter Bishop stumbling across a parallel universe in which his son is still alive in Fringe. The situation in Counterpart is actually different, as it doesn't deal with a pre-existing parallel universe. Instead, describes the situation during the Cold War in the 80s, where an experiment calls the world to be duplicated. In that instance, both worlds were exactly identical. However, as time passed, the two universes begin to diverge, and the parallel world ends up being entirely different and yet still the same. It reminds me of the Star Trek Voyager episode Deadlock, where Voyager is duplicated and you have two versions of the same crew, except this takes place decades after the duplication occurred, so the two different universes have diverged a lot since then. So both worlds keep this event a secret from the general population. However, the two universes maintain relations with one another, where a somewhat treaty exists between them, where they share information and technology with one another, which is mutual beneficial, because as the two universes continue to diverge, each would advance in different areas, and this treaty allows them to benefit from both worlds' advancements. For example, the other universe makes more advancements in terms of medical technology, whereas our universe advanced more in, electronic technology. In particular, it's mentioned that our smartphone is far more advanced than anything that they had on their side. And one of the main points of differences between the two universes is that in the 90s there was a massive plague that decimated the world's population and permanently affected the culture there to be more medical based. And while the official stance of that universe is that the other universe had nothing to do with the outbreak, the show centers around a conspiracy of people who strongly believe that the Prime universe was responsible for the outbreak. Since it didn't occur on that side, so they conduct espionage and from time to time murder people in order to enact a plan of revenge. In this way, the show reminds me a lot of the show Fringe, particularly in the second and third seasons, which dealt with a parallel universe who were suffering from disasters caused by our universe and so would send agents over to the other universe for nefarious purposes. However, unlike Fringe, this response isn't the official position of that universe and instead is a conspiracy they are keeping hidden even from their own people. So the show follows Howard Silk, played by J.K. Simmons, who is an agent from the other universe who travels to our universe in order to uncover and unravel this conspiracy. He enlists the help of his counterpart, who is just a lonely old man at a low-level position whose wife is in a coma, but his life is completely changed when he meets his counterpart and he gets wrapped up in this conspiracy. Although I probably wouldn't go as far as to say that this is an ensemble piece, as it does focus a lot on Howard Silk, there are a lot of other fully developed and well fleshed out characters as well. In fact, my favorite episode of the season centers entirely around one of these side characters, and J.K. Simmons barely appears in that episode. Although there are other characters the show focuses on, such as an assassin character I feel that the show spends way too much time on, and I'm a lot less interested in her story. So the show is set in Berlin, Germany, which is the center of the bridge between these two universes. So it's where all the diplomatic machinery exists between the two worlds and where others can cross over. And so it's also where all the espionage and spy stuff takes place as well. Most of the main characters are either American or British, so despite being set in Germany, it's still a mostly English-speaking show, so those who don't like reading subtitles need not worry, as it's not like Narcos or anything where it's heavily dependent on subtitles. But I find the setting in Berlin gives it a strong Cold War-era spy movie feel to it, which I think is precisely why it's set there, as most good Cold War movies are set in Berlin, and the Cold War is even mentioned as the cause of the duplication of the world's happening in the first place. But the way the spies operate, using code words, infiltration, and a lot of like covert murdering and gathering information, it comes off very much like a typical Cold War espionage film, and the setting in Berlin only enhances that feeling. So the show is basically a Cold War espionage show, but instead of having Americans and the Soviets, they have two parallel universes being the source of the conflict, which allows for some dynamic storytelling, as others from time to time have to deal with their counterparts and how their life could have been different had they made different choices. Although I've never seen the show The Americans because I just never got around to it, I'd imagine that it is very similar in tone to this show. So Counterpart is kind of like The Americans meet Fringe's parallel universe story, meets Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, meets James Bond, sort of. I did really enjoy the show, but it can get a tad bit convoluted from time to time, as I personally feel a lot of spy movies tend to do, such as Atomic Blonde, which just got way too convoluted for its own good. Although Counterpart never gets that bad, there are times I find it a bit confusing, and it meanders a bit too much and got a bit too much into the whole cliche spy material. But the show's strength, as I already mentioned, the acting, but it also has a strong cast of characters who do an amazing job at carrying the show, and the premise really allows them to explore the concept of dealing with alternate versions of oneself and how one's life could have been different had different decisions been made. And it does this in a way I would say is even better than how Fringe explored this topic. So my rating for Counterpart Season 1 out of 10 is an 8, extremely good. It's a fascinating concept with a strong cast of characters, but the show does meander in the mid-season from time to time, and it loses itself in the cliche spy thriller setting, but it comes back strong with a really powerful ending that really puts you in the mindset of these characters and tells a very engaging and thrilling story. So as for the question of will I watch the next season, the answer is an overwhelming yes. In fact, the season's ending was a lot more open-ended than I thought it would be, although there was definitely a sense of finality to the ending. It left a lot of things open for season 2 that made me dying to know what will happen next. So yes, I will very eagerly be awaiting the show's return. So that's it for my quick review of Counterpart Season 1. Be sure to check out my channel for more quick reviews, as well as I cover many other shows like Star Trek The Expanse, Game of Thrones, Babylon 5, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.